Hey there guys, this is Richard, your host. Welcome back to Marvellous Gamers, and today we'll be diving into the top 30 graphically superior SNES games. The SNES was more than just a console. It was the epicenter of our gaming universe back in the day, bursting with colours and adventures that blew our minds. These games are like the greatest art pieces of the 16-bit era, showing off what the SNES could really do when pushed to the max. Each game is a whole new world to get lost in, and the graphics, totally wicked, even by today's standards. We're talking about games that made our jaws drop with every turn and button mash. So, whether you're an old-school gamer looking to relive the glory days or a newbie wanting to see what the fuss is all about, these games are where it's at. Let's grab our controllers and walk back to the days when these games were king and feel the magic all over again. Ready to ride the nostalgia wave? Let's hit it. Super Metroid. In Super Metroid, players step into the shoes of Samus Aran, a bounty hunter on a mission. The game's plot thickens with every twist and turn through the maze-like corridors of planet Zebes, where isolation and suspense build a gripping narrative. You start off simple, but as you wander around, you find all these rad upgrades that let you do more and see more. It's like the game keeps unfolding in front of you. And when it comes to the graphics, the attention to detail is nuts. Like, you can almost feel the dampness of the alien rainforests and the heat from the lava flows. And the creatures, they're so well designed that they practically jump off the screen. The game has this way of making you feel totally alone in an alien world, yet totally pumped to see what's gonna happen next. The best part, however, is that you can play it your way, making each run feel personal. Even today, folks are still racing to see who can zip through the fastest. Bottom line, Super Metroid isn't just something you play to kill time, it's an adventure that sticks with you, proving it's more than just a game, it's a legend. Super Street Fighter 2. Super Street Fighter 2, the new challenges, is where the Street Fighter series really starts to flex, with the roster expanding to 16 fighters, each with their own moves and backstories. You've got characters like Cammy spinning through the air and Fei Long throwing flames, making every match feel like a mini-action movie. Sure, the game's pace is a tad slower than Turbo, allowing for more thoughtful and tactical combat where every move is deliberate and impactful. The game's graphics shine, showcasing the SNES's capabilities with brighter, more dynamic visuals and smoother transitions that pull you right into the action. It not only complements the gameplay but enhances the entire experience, making every moment in the game feel even more intense and real. The original crew's got some slick new moves, and the game's packed with different ways to play, from knockout tournaments to head-to-head battles. Some folks might miss the old speed, but the strategy and variety here are top-notch. It's the kind of game that keeps you coming back for just one more round, whether you're a long-time fan or just stepping into the ring. Metal Warriors. Metal Warriors is a side-scrolling game where you're the boss, Commander Stone, battling it out against a nasty core trying to mess up space and Earth. The gameplay is super engaging. You get to choose from 6 robots, each with its own gear and moves. It's all about strategy, as you switch between these metal beasts and zip around with your pilot's jetpack when you're on foot. The graphics have this old-school vibe that gives everything a classic, gritty look that totally fits the whole space war theme. They might not be super flashy, but they've got a charm that really pulls you into the action. The game's length and difficulty add to its appeal, making each victory satisfying. The music and controls are well executed, enhancing the overall immersion. While it may not be the first title that comes to mind for many SNES enthusiasts, its engaging gameplay and the fun of its versus mode makes it a game that deserves a spot in any retro gamer's collection. It's a testament to the creativity and innovation of its time, offering a mix of strategy, action, and storytelling that still entertains today. Rendering Ranger R2. Rendering Ranger R2 is a rare gem that blends the intense action of Contra with the strategic aerial combat of R-Type. As you alternate between ground assaults and space battles, the game keeps you on your toes with a variety of enemies and massive bosses. The gameplay requires precision, especially during the flying segments. Graphically, it borrows a color palette similar to Contra 3, dominated by browns and grays, creating a gritty, war-torn atmosphere. Despite not being as vibrant as some contemporaries, the game impressively handles a multitude of sprites and large explosions, making each battle a visually dynamic experience. Moreover, the game's level design deserves a shout-out. Each stage brings its own set of challenges and enemies, ensuring that no two levels feel the same. The weapons are cool, the controls are tight, and the action is non-stop. While the audio is average, it doesn't detract from the overall feel of the game. For fans of hardcore shoot-'em-ups, it's definitely worth the play. TMNT 4, Turtles in Time. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time is a fast-paced action game with vibrant visuals that capture the essence of the beloved franchise. Players dive into the roles of the four iconic turtles, battling through various time periods after Shredder sends them spinning through a time warp. The gameplay is fluid and responsive, with each turtle bringing their unique style to the fray. The graphics are a colourful tribute to the era, with detailed animations and backdrops that bring each historical and futuristic setting to life, making every level a treat. The game shines with its polished mechanics and engaging combat. Each hit feels impactful, and the variety of enemies keeps the action fresh and exciting. The inclusion of different aerial attacks and the ability to dash adds depth to the combat. The throws especially are a highlight, providing a satisfying way to deal with enemies. Turtles in Time is a finely crafted beat-em-up game that stands the test of time. Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island is a prequel that takes you back to when Mario and Luigi were just babies, with Yoshi stepping up as the hero. The gameplay is a fresh take on the platforming genre, with Yoshi's unique abilities like the flutter jump and egg-throwing mechanics adding depth to each level. The game makes you feel like you've jumped into a living, breathing colouring book. The graphics are a total game changer, ditching the usual Mario look for something way more artsy and whimsical. It's like the designers just went wild with a box of crayons, and what they came up with is nothing short of awesome. Every little bit of this game, from the wobbly hills to the goofy expressions of the enemies, is packed with personality. It's like every corner of the screen has something going on, making you want to take your time just to soak it all in. While the game does have a few pacing issues and the transformation segments can be a bit clunky, these are minor gripes in an otherwise stellar game. Overall, Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island is a triumph of creativity and fun, a game that's as enjoyable now as it was when it first hit the shelves. Mega Man X. Mega Man X isn't just another sequel, it's a complete revamp that breathes new life into the classic series. You've got X, this updated version of our favourite blue bomber who brings a fresh vibe to the game. The gameplay? It's slick. Dashing around, wall jumping and swapping weapons on the go feels so smooth and adds a real depth to the action. And the graphics? The graphics are a significant leap forward, offering a grittier, more futuristic world that retains the charm of the original series. Now let's talk about the experience. The controls are spot on, making every jump and shot feel satisfying. The soundtrack is a total banger, setting the perfect mood for every stage, and the new challenges keep you hooked. This game isn't just a nostalgic trip, it's a reminder of how awesome and innovative a franchise can get while staying true to its roots. It's definitely a must-play. Kirbys Dreamland 3. In Kirbys Dreamland 3, the gameplay is a delightful blend of simplicity and depth, perfect for gamers of all stripes. Kirby's return to the SNES brings with it a host of animal friends, each offering unique combined abilities that add layers to the classic suck and copy mechanics. The graphics are a charming, colourful nod to the series' roots, with a soft pastel palette that makes Dreamland more dreamier than ever. The plot, while straightforward, is engaging, driving players through diverse and imaginative stages. The addition of co-op play with GUI, though not as polished as one might hope, adds a layer of fun that's hard to find elsewhere. Kirbys Dreamland 3 might have been overshadowed by its predecessors and successors, but it has a distinctive charm that's worth experiencing. It serves as a reminder that sometimes the most enjoyable adventures are the simplest ones. FZero. FZero really cranks up the heat with its fast-paced, futuristic racing action. As one of the first to utilize the SNES's Mode 7 graphics, this tech allowed the game to simulate 3D environments, giving tracks like Mute City and Big Blue a sense of depth and motion that was unheard of at the time. The way the tracks twist, turn and scale as you zip through them at breakneck speed still impresses. Players choose from 4 distinct hovercrafts, each with unique handling and speed, to race across tracks set in a world where interstellar trade is the norm and high-speed tournaments are the ultimate entertainment. The game's plot, though minimal, provides just enough context to set the stage for players to know why they're tearing up the track in the first place. Sure, it misses out on the fun of smacking your buddy's car off the track because there's no multiplayer, but the rush you get from nailing a perfect lap is all there. FZero is a thrill ride that laid the groundwork for all the high-speed games that followed. Hagane, the Final Conflict. In Hagane, the Final Conflict, you're thrown into a future where Japan's Fuma clan guards the Holy Grail, only to be attacked and nearly wiped out. As the last surviving member, now a cyborg, you're on a mission to recover the Grail and save the world. The gameplay is a rich mix of traditional ninja tools and futuristic weaponry, allowing for a variety of combat styles and techniques. The graphics are a standout, aging well with detailed sprites and backgrounds that blend ancient Japan with a futuristic twist. Each level, from gloomy forest to grimy sewers, is a treat, reflecting the game's unique setting. Hagane is an overlooked gem. It's tough as nails, which might not be everyone's cup of tea, but if you're up for a challenge, it's super rewarding. The controls might take a bit to get used to, especially those jumps that feel like you're on the moon, but once you get the hang of it, you're in for a good time. The music and sound are decent, doing their job to keep the vibe going, though you won't find any tunes sticking in your head. So if you're after a game that's going to test your skills, well, this one is a solid pick. Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble. This game is set in the northern realm of the classic Donkey Kong universe, far from the familiar jungles and pirate ships. Dixie Kong takes the lead, with Kiddy Kong in tow, on a quest to find the missing Donkey and Diddy Kong. The gameplay is a solid side-scrolling adventure with a mix of jumping, swinging, and exploring your way through some pretty neat levels. The interactive map is a fresh touch, making you poke around for secrets and chat with some interesting characters. The graphics nail it by capturing the true essence of the Northern Hemisphere with its forests, cabins, and snowy landscapes, all while maintaining the series' charming aesthetic. We reckon Donkey Kong Country 3 didn't get the props it deserved back in the day. Sure, Kiddy Kong might not be everyone's cup of tea, but Dixie's cool moves and the game's focus on discovery really make it worth a play. It might have been missed initially because of the game's release timing. Everyone was hyped about the N64, but this time is perfect for kicking back with some old-school platforming fun. The Legend of the Mystical Ninja. In The Legend of the Mystical Ninja, you dive into a quirky, action-packed world with Goemon and his pal, Ebisumaru. The gameplay is a mix of beat-em-up brawling in towns and platforming action in side-scrolling stages, reminiscent of classics like Contra and Castlevania. You start with a simple wooden pipe and can upgrade to a spiked yo-yo, throwing money as a ranged attack when needed. The graphics are vibrant and full of personality, especially in the cutscenes that tell the tale of rescuing Princess Yuki. The soundtrack is seriously catchy, offering one of the best audio experiences on the SNES. Playing this game with a friend cranks up the fun, turning every level into a laugh-filled adventure. The game's humor and action hit just the right notes, creating an experience that's as memorable as it is enjoyable. The localization might have missed a beat or two, but the heart of the game beats strong. So go on, help a ninja out and give this one a go. Star Fox. You're piloting through space and planetary defenses in an on-rails shooter that feels like you're gliding through warm butter. You're Fox McCloud, leading your team against the evil Andros and his army. The game's a mix of intense dogfights and strategic navigation through asteroid fields and enemy formations. The graphics, a series of angular polygons, were groundbreaking for the time, crafting a three-dimensional sensation on a console not originally designed for such depth. The game's ambition outpaced the hardware, leading to technical limitations like a choppy frame rate that can hinder the reflex-based gameplay. However, the Super FX chip propelled the SNES to its maximum capacity, offering distinctive graphics despite the frame rate issue. The soundtrack? Absolutely slaps. It's a testament to Nintendo's creativity and willingness to push boundaries. Star Fox might not be the smoothest ride in the galaxy, but it's an important piece of gaming history and a fun trip down memory lane for those who remember the days of barrel rolls and polygonal space battles. Killer Instinct. Killer Instinct roars back into the fighting game scene with a combat system that's as engaging as it is intricate. The game offers a modest roster of 6 well-developed characters, each bringing different fighting styles to the table. The gameplay is all about getting into your opponent's head with a bunch of cool combo breakers and counters. The graphics during matches are impressive, with dynamic self-shadowing, aggressive lighting, and particle effects that create a vivid, immersive environment, all while maintaining a smooth 60 FPS. It compensates for its smaller character selection with a wealth of unlockables and an excellent training mode that not only teaches the game, but also the genre. The Dojo mode is particularly noteworthy, offering a comprehensive guide to fighting game mechanics. Even though it's missing an arcade mode, it's the kind of game that's easy to jump into, but has enough going on under the hood to keep you hooked. Axelay Axelay really shakes things up in the world of 2D space shooters. It's not just your average fly and shoot game. It throws in some twist with levels that scroll both vertically and horizontally. Axelay distinguishes itself with its innovative graphics that push the SNES to its limits. The vertical levels in particular use Mode 7 and parallax effects to create a pseudo 3D experience, making the planet's surfaces and misty clouds rush beneath your ship. The gameplay is enhanced by an exceptional weapon selection system, allowing you to choose 3 weapons before each level and switch between them on the fly. It's a pretty solid game that made a splash back in the day, even though the collision detection can be inconsistent and the game's length is disappointingly short with only 6 stages. Sometimes it's even hard to tell when you're going to get hit. It's still worth a shot if you're into retro games or just looking for something a little different from the usual space shooter fare. Secret of Mana. Secret of Mana is known for its active time RPG gameplay, with its real-time battle system offering a dynamic twist to the genre. The game's multiplayer capability is a highlight, allowing up to 3 players to join the adventure simultaneously, a feature that's even more accessible in the Virtual Console version. The game kicks off with an engaging narrative where a young hero stumbles upon an ancient world, setting off a chain of events that sees him joining forces with 2 companions, the trio, each with their distinct combat styles, melee, healing, and offensive magic. The graphics are a feast for the eyes, with lush, detailed environments and characters that vividly bring the fantasy world to life. The ability to team up with 2 other players transforms the game into a shared interactive adventure, a feature that's particularly seamless on the Virtual Console. The game's leveling system, where both characters and the weapons grow stronger, and the ring menu interface for navigation and item selection add depth to the gameplay. While the game has aged, its innovative features continue to make it a worthwhile experience. Chrono Trigger. Set in a world where time travel is central to the story, players follow Chrono and his friends through various eras, with their actions in the past significantly affecting the future. The game's battle system is a refreshing departure from traditional turn-based mechanics, allowing for real-time combat and team-based tech moves that combine characters' abilities for powerful effects. The graphics pop off the screen. The characters aren't just a bunch of pixels. They're full of personality, with smooth animations that show off their moods and moves. And the places you'll visit? Well, they're super varied. From lush forests to futuristic cities, each spot with its own vibe. Chrono Trigger is a must-play for any RPG enthusiast. The game's multiple endings and New Game Plus feature add immense replayability, inviting players to explore different outcomes and strategies. The soundtrack, composed by the legendary Yasunori Mitsuda, is an auditory delight that perfectly complements the game's atmosphere. Chrono Trigger proves that great storytelling and gameplay never go out of style. Super Mario Kart. Super Mario Kart is all about crazy fun racing where players get to choose from 8 beloved characters from the Mario world. The game introduces engine classes, 50cc, 100cc and 150cc, that dictate the difficulty and speed, making it accessible yet challenging. The graphics are super catchy with cartoonish landscapes that are instantly recognizable and filled with creative obstacles and power-ups. The constant split-screen view, even in single-player mode, was innovative, providing a map and positional data on one half of the screen. Super Mario Kart is a game that defines the kart racing subgenre and remains a benchmark for enjoyable competitive multiplayer gaming. The tracks are clever, and using items to mess with your friends never gets old. It's simpler than the newer games, sure, but that's what makes it so special. It's just straightforward racing with a Mario twist. Whether you're playing solo or with friends, it's a blast every time. Actrazer. Actrazer takes you on an exhilarating journey from the get-go. You start off swinging your sword like a boss in classic 2D side-scrolling style, jumping around and zapping enemies with magic. Then things take a turn when you switch to playing in a godlike simulation, where you're helping folks build up their towns. This part's all about guiding growth and making sure everything's ticking along nicely. It's a neat change of pace that keeps things interesting. The graphics are exceptional, with details, sprites and environments that bring both the action and simulation parts to life. You're not just playing 2 types of games, you're living 2 different lives in one. The ability to control various aspects of the environment and defend your people from threats really makes you think. Sure, the action part might not be revolutionary, and the sound effects can get a bit in your face, but those are just tiny blips in an otherwise awesome game. Actrazer is of course innovative, but it's also genuinely fun and a memorable game that leaves you feeling like you've really done something. Dragon Ball Z Hyperdimension. Dragon Ball Z Hyperdimension is one of the best fighting games in the Dragon Ball series, especially for the SNES. The game picks up in the second half of the Z series, taking players from intense battles against Frieza to the climactic showdowns with Majin Buu. Characters like Cell, Goku, Gohan, Vegeta, and Piccolo are all playable, each with their unique moves and devastating attacks. The game shakes things up by combining your health and power into one bar, so you've got to be smart about when to go all out and when to hold back. The graphics are a step up from previous entries, with smoother, cleaner visuals and well-animated characters that bring the Dragon Ball universe to life in a more impressive way than ever before. The game's fighting strategies are more complex and varied than other Dragon Ball games, offering air combos, ground combos, counter chi blasts, and juggling combos. Each character's trademark attack adds a personal touch to the battles. The music and sound effect, complete with familiar Dragon Ball tunes and Japanese voiceovers, enhance the overall experience. Overall, Dragon Ball Z Hyperdimension is not just a great Dragon Ball game, it's a solid fighting game that stands on its own merits, offering depth, variety, and a whole lot of action. Terranigma. Terranigma, an action RPG developed by Quintet, is a game that takes players on an epic journey of resurrection and discovery. The game's plot is rich and complex, diving into themes of resurrection, God, devil, evolution, and reincarnation. As the protagonist arc, players embark on a journey to resurrect the planet, navigating through a world divided into an internal and external face. The gameplay is real-time and battle-focused, with a variety of moves depending on the use of your spear-like weapons. The controls are intuitive, and the graphics are a highlight, with detailed sprites and environments that bring the game's world to life. The cutscenes in particular are beautifully rendered, showcasing the game's narrative and thematic depth. The story's got enough twists and turns to keep you hooked, and the soundtrack is the kind of stuff you'll find yourself humming later. Sure, the magic system isn't the flashiest, and you might wish for more variety in your moves as you go along, but the overall package is solid. Whether you're an RPG junkie or just looking for a game with a bit more meat to it, Terranigma is worth playing, and we're sure you'll be thinking about this game even long after you've turned off the console. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past is a game that's often celebrated as a turning point in the series, and for good reason. The game starts with an intensity that's hard to match, as Link rushes out into a stormy night to answer Zelda's telepathic call for help. This opening sets the stage for an adventure. The gameplay's a total blast, with heaps of exploration, puzzles that make you think, and combat, all set in a beautifully crafted world. The graphics are a significant step up from previous entries, with detailed backgrounds and environments that add depth and immersion to the game. The dungeons are cleverly designed, each with its own theme and set of challenges, and the items you find become iconic parts of Link's arsenal. A Link to the Past is a near-perfect example of game evolution. It takes the essence of the original Zelda and amps it up in all the right ways. The game's flow is just right, keeping things exciting from start to finish. And when you stumble into the dark world, it feels like you've hit a whole new level of adventure. Yeah, the character sprites might not be the flashiest, and the dungeon music might get a tad repetitive, but these flaws are minor compared to its achievements. It's a game that changed the Zelda series and action-adventure games in general. Castlevania Dracula X. Castlevania: The Dracula X Chronicles is a compilation that brings a remastered version of the previously unreleased Rondo of Blood to the forefront, along with the original game and the fan-favorite Symphony of the Night. You play Richter Belmont, out to kick Dracula's butt and save your girl Annette. Coming to the gameplay and graphics, the game takes the 2D side-scrolling action we all know and love and gives it a fresh coat of paint with 3D backgrounds and character models. The environments are dark and moody, perfectly capturing that gothic Castlevania atmosphere. You'll trek through eerie castles, gloomy forests, and all sorts of creepy locales, each rendered with a level of detail that's pretty impressive. The Dracula X Chronicles is a great game with a few rough edges. It's a tough game, which is great if you're into that old school, no mercy kind of game. The jumping and stair mechanics can be a real pain, and sometimes the checkpoints feel like they're a million miles apart. Plus, having to hunt down some obscure item to unlock Symphony of the Night is a bit of a head scratcher. But hey, playing as Maria with her animal buddies is a delight, and the whole package offers so much content that it'll keep you really busy. It's a bit of a roller coaster ride, with all the ups and downs, but if you're up for the challenge, well, it's definitely worth a shot. Star Ocean. Star Ocean: The Divine Force is seen as a significant step forward for the series, especially after the disappointment of its predecessor. The game introduces revamped combat mechanics that breathe new life into the series, offering more freedom and flexibility than ever before. Players follow the story of Rey, a space merchant, and Letitia, a princess, as they deal with conflicts that grow from planetary to astronomical. The game's graphics do a great job of pulling you in. The character designs are detailed, giving each one a personality that shines through even before they speak. The environments are another high point. Whether you're zipping through a futuristic city or exploring some mysterious alien landscape, The settings are rich and immersive. The combat system's overhaul is a welcome change, injecting energy and excitement into every encounter. The character dynamics are particularly interesting, with a mix of individuals from technologically diverse backgrounds, leading to humorous and insightful interactions. Even though the game doesn't escape criticism due to the frustrating user interface detracting from the overall experience, the game still has an engaging story that makes it a worthwhile journey for fans of the series and newcomers alike. It's a reminder that even in a genre as storied as JRPGs, there's still room for innovation and improvement. Gunmans Proof. Gunmans Proof is an action RPG that's more than just a Zelda clone with guns. Set in the American Old West with a sci-fi twist, the game begins after meteors strike the land and bring in monsters and a crashed UFO. The protagonist, a country boy, encounters two aliens seeking a criminal and agrees to let them possess his body to aid their search. This setup leads to a game that emphasizes combat over puzzles, with players earning points based on health and time after defeating the dungeon bosses. The graphics are impressive for a SNES game, with detailed facial expressions and well-designed enemies and environments. The combat's fun and keeps you on your toes, especially with the bosses that make you work for your wins. The whole one weapon at a time deal adds a layer of strategy to your battles. The branching level design adds depth, encouraging exploration and replayability. The music's catchy, though some might find the dungeon tunes too cheerful for the setting. While the game clearly draws inspiration from Zelda, it stands on its own with its own setting and gun-based combat. It's a solid action-adventure game that's worth checking out, especially for those interested in the SNES's late-era offerings. Earthbound. Earthbound is a game that skillfully juggles a dark Lovecraftian apocalypse with moments of silly lightheartedness, never letting you wait too long between them. The gameplay wraps traditional RPG tropes in a 1990s setting, where you wield children's toys like yo-yos and baseball bats to battle against stray dogs, hippies and skateboarders. The game's got this offbeat vibe with all its nods to Americana and pop culture. However, it's also a traditional Japanese RPG at its core, meaning it doesn't shy away from being hard. The game's world is a mashup of everyday life and wild fantasy, and the graphics do an amazing job of bringing it all to life. You'll wander through towns that feel lived in and real, then head out into landscapes filled with all sorts of strange and wonderful sights. This game throws in some clever features that really shake up the typical RPG formula. That health system with the scrolling numbers. Genius. It adds a whole layer of nail-biting tension to battles, giving you a chance to save your characters in the nick of time. And not having to deal with random battles is a breath of fresh air, especially when you can just stomp weaker enemies and move on. But yeah, dodge too many fights and you'll be in a world of hurt when the big bosses show up. While the game's got its fair share of drawbacks, like enemies popping back up all the time and some slowdown issues, it's still an absolute blast to play. Final Fantasy III. Final Fantasy III is widely regarded as one of the best RPGs ever released for the Super Nintendo, and it's easy to see why. The game's story is deep and engaging, focusing on a group of adventurers fighting against an evil empire. Each character has a distinct personality and background, making it easy to get attached and invested in their journey. The gameplay is traditional for the series, but introduces a revolutionary magic system where nearly all characters can learn spells, adding a layer of customization and strategy. The game has a vibrant and diverse color palette that brings its world to life. Each environment, from the bustling towns to the eerie caves, is rendered with an impressive level of detail that immerses you in the game's fantasy setting. The character sprites, while small, are beautifully designed and animated, conveying a surprising amount of emotion and personality. The game's use of Mode 7 graphics, a technique that creates a pseudo 3D effect, is also noteworthy, especially during certain sequences that showcase the game's scope and scale. Sure, the magic system might make the characters feel a bit too similar in combat, and the game might not be the toughest out there, but these are just minor quibbles in an otherwise outstanding game. Final Fantasy III is one of those games that deserves a spot in your collection. It's as rich and engaging today as it was when it first hit the shelves. Marvellous verdict. As we wrap up our epic journey through the top 30 graphically superior SNES games, it's clear that these titles were more than just games. They were groundbreaking feats of art and technology. From immersive worlds to stunning visuals, each game showcased the magic of the SNES era. As we put down our controllers, we're left with a deep appreciation for these classics that continue to influence and inspire. Here's to the games that shaped our past and continue to brighten our gaming future.